if you're counting on your
podcast listeners, we know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station.
to school.
Right.
To go within the last 6 or something like that. You don't have to be a Sherlock. They'll be clear good, because if there's a
Website, interesting pledge, and see how the patient's
money and I'm in trouble. What happened? Did I do wrong on move 15 maybe?
It's kind of started to go south a little bit. Oh, again, Dr. Herrington, if you or the other doctors in your
On this week's On the Media, obesity is cited as a risk factor for COVID-19, but maybe some of that risk lies outside those patients' bodies.
People with obesity are treated differently by the medical profession.
Plus, how folks with a little extra adiposity were knocked down a few pegs on the hierarchy of humanity. On the next On the Media from WNYC.
Join us for On the Media, Saturday mornings at 7 on KSJE, Farmington. San Juan Regional Medical Center is your community hospital, committed to making life better for the communities we are privileged to serve. In fact, better is our mission, improving lives through personalized health and care. What matters most to our patients matters most to us, offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services so you can get the quality care you need right here at home. San Juan Regional Medical Center, celebrating life better here since 1910. Keep an eye on the Animas River as the Pirates of Penzance land in Farmington this July. Gilbert and Sullivan's Comic Opera opens July 7th in Lyons Wilderness Amphitheater, with performances Thursday through Sunday through July 31st. The show features pirates, policemen, and absurd adventures. There's more Jolt-worthy entertainment coming in August when Andy takes the stage at the Farmington Civic Center. Find out more at visitfarmingtonnm.org and jolt your summer. "14 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, the 13th day of July, 2022. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air, of course, here in San Juan County, New Mexico. In Durango, Colorado, you can tune in at 103.3 FM. And if you're anywhere else on the planet, you are probably listening to our stream from our website, KSJE.com. We also welcome our viewers who are watching this community-supported visual radio station. The video is streaming out live this morning to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and also our Twitter account. So we're glad that you're here this morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Coming up, we're going to talk about kids and health with my guest. Dr. Preston Herrington is standing by from San Juan Health Partners Pediatrics. Hope you'll stay tuned for that conversation, which begins in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Later in this hour, we'll be getting another lesson from the archives about life in the sandbox. We've given Ron Price the summer off, but we've got plenty of good segments to choose from. Share another one of those with you coming up this morning at 8:50 a.m. Life in the Sandbox with Ron Price on KSJE. A reminder that Mick Hess is on vacation for the rest of July, so we'll get some more classical music for you from Peter Van de Graaff at 9:06, but we'll still have Right on Four Corners at 10:30 a.m. today, our local and regional author program. That's Tracy Hales, and she's speaking with author W. Michael Farmer about his latest book called The Iliad of Geronimo, a song of blood and fire, all about Geronimo's escape from capture. That coming up today at 10:30 on KSJE. Don't forget, you can also connect with us on our Instagram page in addition to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And if you're a podcast person, we invite you to connect with KSJE Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe discover a program that you may have missed earlier in the year. Outside of our studios here at San Juan College, here's a look at the campus this morning. It's a beautiful sunny day today, mostly sunny, current temperature 70 degrees outside our studios here at San Juan College. And we're expecting a mostly sunny morning, maybe some increasing clouds in the afternoon. The high today, 94 in Farmington, maybe less chance of a scattered shower developing today, but that pattern comes back into play tonight and on to the rest of the week as we see a chance of showers overnight tonight with a low of 66. Chance of showers tomorrow, the high 93, Thursday 92 for high on Friday, 91 on Saturday, 93 on Sunday, and lower 90s again early next week. And that monsoon moisture pattern still with us, with about a 40% chance of showers each day and night as the next few days come across. Well, let me turn to my guest who is here with me this morning, as I mentioned, to talk a little bit about kids and health. From San Juan Health Partners Pediatrics, Dr. Preston Herrington is back in the studio with me this morning. Dr. Herrington, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Scott. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming in, and congratulations, I think, are in order because you have announced your mostly retirement, right? Yet you're still on call to come into the radio once in a while and maybe see some patients once in a while, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm officially retired, but I'm sort of in the reserves. So
okay.
If either the hospital or the office had a sudden need for an extra pair of hands, then they would call me. So.
Gotcha. Or a person to come on the radio, they call you, and here you are.
Here I am.
There
yes,
you go.
Yes.
I'm glad that's still in your toolbox, if you will, so to come in and visit with me. So thank you for doing that. And so let's talk a little bit about what's going on with kids and health these days. I guess the big news has to be that vaccines for COVID-19 are now available for children as young as 6 months of age, correct?
6 months, yeah. I think that's, and our office is now ready to give those. I believe the health department's also giving it. I'm not sure. I guess people can check with their family doctor if that's who they go to.
Mm-hmm.
But right, they've gradually dropped the age down, and now we're as low as 6 months.
Right, and some folks may say, "Gosh, it's a long time. It seems like it's taken a long time to get to this point." But I guess, is that because of just all the testing they wanted to do, just to make sure that the dosages were correct for these younger kids and things like that as they were working on the vaccine?
Yeah, I think all of us would agree that while we want a safe vaccine, we especially want a safe vaccine if we're dealing with our young patients. And another reason for that is that if you take 100 people who are 80 years old and you give them COVID, a big chunk of them are going to be sick enough to be in the hospital, whereas you take 100 kids and you give them COVID, probably 0 or 1 will be in the hospital. So the risk-benefit analysis is different, and you have to be convinced that it is still less risky to get the vaccine than it is to get the disease. So, right, we have millions of doses given to adults, and they took their time doing the studies to younger and younger groups to be 100% sure that it's a safe bet.
Right, exactly. And we've heard that time and time again whenever they've rolled out a new vaccine for adults even, right, that has gone through all these trials and all this testing on adults and things along that line. And I think, again, the conventional wisdom still is, and the medical science still is, that you're less likely to get seriously ill if you have been vaccinated, if you do end up being infected with COVID-19.
Absolutely. Yep. We had hoped that the vaccine would prevent all illness, but most people who get vaccinated will still have a minor illness if and when they get COVID. But the people who are in the hospital and the people who were dying were overwhelmingly the unvaccinated.
Right, and we saw that locally too, as in addition to all the worldwide numbers we saw.
Unfortunately, that was true both at the beginning before the vaccine, and then, like during the Delta wave, there's a significant population in town that was vaccine hesitant, and so they were, for the most part, the ones in the hospital and the ones that didn't survive.
Right. And now, we're still hearing about it. I think cases have kind of flattened out a little bit. We get a little bit of a surge every once in a while in certain parts of the country, certain parts of the world. But the virus seems to be, again, we're still getting some of these strains, and I guess it's just doing what a virus does, right? And this has been studied for forever, right? Viruses do mutate, and you get different variants, and they maybe get a little weaker, but maybe they have different characteristics and things like that. Is that what happens?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, the viruses are a good real-time demonstration of how evolution works. So if you have random mutations, sometimes the mutation doesn't do the virus any good and it just dies out. But if you have a mutation that happens to make the virus 10 times as contagious, then that over time is going to be the strain that outcompetes its cousins because it's more contagious.
Right. We've seen that.
Right.
And that's what we saw.
Right, yeah.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, let's move on to something else this morning, but a reminder that COVID is still with us, and there are still places I think where people are recommended to maybe mask up in some parts of the country, as we've heard, and things like that. If you're in a large indoor public gathering, it may be wise to still wear a mask.
Yeah, I think that's an individual decision, and everybody should feel free to do that. Particularly if you're in a higher risk category, if you're older, or if you have diabetes. One thought that just popped into my head is I think sometimes the sort of contrary opinion has lumped in lockdowns and masks and vaccines as though they were all equally, they had the same pros and cons. And it's overwhelmingly clear to me that the vaccine is our most effective tool and our least costly tool, whereas something like lockdowns, I think, will not happen again just because the economic cost was huge and the benefit was maybe a little bit, but the vaccines, on the other hand, are extremely safe and extremely effective. And so people who say, well, I'm anti-mask, the masks, same sort of thing. Maybe they help in some situations, but the vaccine for sure helps. So
Right.
I would encourage people to, definitely consider getting the vaccine and talk to your doctor about that.
Yeah, if they have questions, that's the person
Right.
to talk to, right? And
Right.
I'm sure folks will talk to you about it, right?
Every day, yeah.
So there you go. There you go. Well, let's talk a little bit about kids. It's summertime, and so it's probably parents starting to think about back to school, and so it's that time for maybe physicals and health checks for children and getting them ready for sports and things along that line. Is that a lot of what you see these days?
Yeah, although our most prepared families are often scheduled in July. Sometimes not all of us are that organized, and people will get a note, well, you need a physical this week, and so then suddenly mid to late August, there's this crunch that everybody needs a physical yesterday.
Right.
So this would be a good time if you know you're going to be playing fall sports to go ahead and schedule, with your healthcare provider for a sports physical. It's interesting. Lately, the schools have wanted a physical within 6 months of participation. Pre-COVID, if you had a physical within a year, that was good enough. So you may have to do a little homework just to, if you're counting on your physical from last November being good, it may or may not be okay with the school.
Right. See if the rules have changed a little bit, or
Right.
what have you.
They may want a physical within the last 6 months.
Exactly, and a lot of times, or sometimes, these physicals may encounter or may detect some other underlying maybe health condition, right? For a student athlete, where they seem very healthy, but sometimes there's a little defect noted in a routine exam, right?
Right. That occasionally happens. It's funny that's sort of the notion that, oh, maybe you would find a hernia or something like that. Most of the time, you don't have to be a Sherlock Holmes. People will come in and they'll say, my shoulder's been bugging me or something, and so there'll be clues. I've always felt like the physicals are good because my agenda is not the same as the sports agenda. Sometimes if there's a patient who's having some depression or an eating disorder or something like that that's kind of going underneath the radar, and then because of the sports physical, they're actually coming to see us once a year, and then that may bring them to medical attention. Whereas if they didn't need a sports physical from the school's perspective, then they might just be sort of under the radar for years with one of those conditions.
I see. Interesting point. And so you can, I guess, maybe judge and see how the patient's reacting during that physical to see if maybe anything else might be going on,
Right.
to then refer them to somebody else or who knows what.
Yeah, the sports physical is part of the visit, but really we do a wellness visit. And so every wellness visit with an older teenager, we talk to them one-on-one. And sometimes other things come up. How's school going? A lot of times that can reveal issues. How's everybody getting along at home? And sometimes there are, you may notice, oh, this kid is getting overweight. Now, fortunately, most of the time the athletes are not the ones that are high risk for obesity. But at other wellness exams, you might notice, wow, in the last year he's gained 20 pounds, but he's only grown 2 inches, and now maybe we need to let the height catch up with the weight and
Right.
talk about that some.
You talk about diet or something, right? Or exercise or
Right.
both.
Right, exactly.
In that case, so that makes a lot of sense. We were talking too earlier about some of these childhood diseases and other things, ailments that kids get, the flu and whooping cough and things along that line. But I guess as another part of COVID-19, we didn't really have a really serious flu season until late, I guess, in the flu season, correct? Because of maybe some of the masking and things that were being done?
I think so. COVID's been interesting. In the early part of the pandemic, many of these viruses basically disappeared. We had no flu season a year and a half ago when we normally would have. And then this year, I think it was around March that the schools finally said you don't have to mask. And so they finally relaxed the sort of the I don't even know what the social distancing, masking sort of thing. And at that point, then influenza kind of stepped up and took advantage of the improved environment from its perspective.
Yeah.
So instead of having a flu season in January, we started having a flu season like in April, and had a lot of flu in April and May and even into June, which is not typical.
Right.
Yeah. We even had some croup. Croup is usually in the fall, But so these viruses never go all the way down to zero. They're always kind of hiding out in somebody's nose, and then as soon as we're all getting together, touching the same things, breathing the same air, then they'll resurface.
There you go. Makes you wonder why people don't just wear masks during these flu seasons, right? And I think in some countries they do, right?
I think so. You know, I don't know whether it's because of flu or because of COVID, but when they were with the news of the assassination of the Japanese prime minister, I noticed that even outdoors, all those people wearing masks. I think in Asia, there's sort of a culture that if you're sick, you put on a mask, or if it's flu season, you put on a mask.
Right. I think we've seen that, or maybe in some of the countries where their air quality isn't so great, they're wearing masks all the time, or at least on days when it's really bad.
Well, in fact, it's funny. My sister says I can't go outside because of allergies, and I'm like, well, now everybody's wearing a mask. Just put on an N95 and take a walk, and it doesn't just filter out COVID; it filters out pollen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, whether it's pollution or allergies, or if you're going to be in a crowded area with a bunch of people who are sick, masks. The other thing is, if you're going to rob a bank now, I think you can put a mask on and walk in there, and nobody's going to think anything about it. You know, like
That may be true too. Yeah, that's not necessarily a good thing, but I guess you're right about that. That's very true. Talk to me a little bit about other things that you're seeing with kids that are coming in. Obviously, different ages, right? As kids are developing, it's still a really important time for nutrition and exercise, and kind of watching how they're developing. Again, maybe getting overweight or not, things along that line. Are those things that you kind of watch from year to year with a kid coming to your office?
Yep, and we have plenty of obesity and even type 2 diabetes in the older kids, younger teenagers.
And that hasn't always been the case, has it?
No, you know, when I was in medical school, type 2 diabetes was adult onset. That was not something pediatricians needed to think about. We had type 1 diabetes, which is juvenile diabetes,
Sure.
which is still out there. It's rare, but there's every year there's a few of those cases. But the type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes is mostly what we see. If you see a 15-year-old who weighs 300 pounds, he's probably pre-diabetic, and
that's a concern. That's a concern,
that
right?
is a concern, right?
It can lead to diabetes, and then there's a lot of other health issues that come from that as well, aren't there?
Right. Yeah, they cluster, so their blood pressure may be already on the rise, and you know, young people don't think about the future. If you tell them, well, you know, when you're 40 years old, you may lose your kidneys. Well, when you're 17, you think, oh, when I'm 40, that's like, you know, 500 years from now, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Sure. Well, they feel, I think I've heard that kids feel invincible too, right? Which is why they maybe do some of the crazy things that they do and end up seeing you in the emergency room.
Right.
But this happens, right? And so it does cause damage later on, doesn't it? If you have diabetes as a younger person?
Unfortunately, yeah, the younger your diabetes starts, then it sort of starts the clock for complications like loss of vision, loss of kidney function. You know, we all know people that have had amputations of their lower digits or lower extremities in their middle age or later. And so if you're diabetic when you're 20, that clock starts sooner than if your diabetes onset happens when you're 50, for example.
Right.
So,
very true. You mentioned that kind of pre-diabetic status, right? And I guess that can sometimes be reversed or slowed, right? So it doesn't really mean you're going to be diabetic necessarily, does it?
No, that's right. It just sort of tells you that, and it's nice in that sense. I mean, I myself had a few years back, there's a test called the hemoglobin A1C that gives you a sense of what your average blood glucose over the last 100 days has been. And that started to tick up into the low pre-diabetic phase. And so then I thought, okay, I have to be serious about not eating as much junk food and getting regular exercise and that sort of thing. And I think it can be a wake-up call. Some families, unfortunately, are in denial, but a lot of families will sort of say, oh, yeah, I guess we need to get rid of the sodas, and we need to, you know, try to find healthier snacks. And that's the idea. If you catch it when they're 15, so that maybe they stay pre-diabetic for 80 years and never get diabetes, then that would be better than if they were unaware and suddenly they're 25 or 30 years old with diabetes.
Right. And the issues that come with that diagnosis. And that's a whole different animal, unfortunately, for people. And your treatment options, I think, are fairly limited at that stage, are they not? Just maintaining it or managing it?
Well, there are medications. Most of the time we start with lifestyle modifications. So the low-hanging fruit is the excess carbohydrates, and especially the ones you drink. So if you're drinking a regular soda every day and you switch to water, that may be all you need to do. I don't really recommend people going hungry. You know, you come home from school and you're starving, you're just going to suffer for 3 hours, but choosing a healthy snack that's not just pure carbohydrates. So, a bowl full of M&Ms or a bag full of chips is not what you want.
Not the best choice. Not the best choice,
Right,
probably,
right.
in that situation. So
I should mention, as we've just found out that we have a new doctor who's joining our practice who has a special interest in obesity. So her name is Dr. Lyons. She's been at the University of New Mexico for a few years, and she accepted an offer to join our practice in the fall. So that will sort of bring us back where our total number of providers will be the same. I've retired. Another doctor went from full-time to half-time, and then we're hiring a new full-time person. So it's sort of shuffling it around, ending
Gotcha.
up with the same number of bodies there.
Very good. And still with the benefits of having you kind of on a
Right.
phone call, right? In case they
Right.
need you to call you back in. So that's
Exactly.
important too. And this whole idea of childhood obesity is a growing, literally and figuratively, problem in our country. And so I would assume that this new doctor can maybe help with some of these issues in children.
I think absolutely. We, sometimes people come in and they have a special interest in something, let's say rheumatology or something that we might have. 1 in 10,000 children would need their help, and I would say we probably have 20 or 30% of our practice could use. Now they don't all need to see a specialist, but it'll help the group to have a special interest in that, so that if we have cases where we say we've tried the usual things and it's just not working, then maybe she can help be the backup person for that.
Sure. Well, and her expertise, I suppose, too, right? To be
Right.
able to say, it's not just big boned, it's something
Right,
else maybe
right.
that's going on with your kid. And so
Yeah.
there is all that. My guest this morning is Dr. Preston Herrington. He is recently retired from San Juan Health Partners Pediatrics, but he is still in an on-call situation, I guess you could say, and able to come in and talk to me and be
Yeah.
available for the practice when needed. But you still kind of have that calmer look about you, Dr. Herrington, I have to say, of a newly retired physician. So congratulations again on that. Some of the things you're looking forward to doing, just spending more time with the grandkid, right?
Right. We have a granddaughter who's
Congratulations.
a year old last month, and she's a blast and a lot of fun. In fact, when at my retirement party, they made a nice little plaque for me that said, under new management, see granddaughter for details, with a cute picture of her.
Right.
Um,
Very
and
good.
getting a little more exercise, a little more time to read and work on my main hobby, which is chess, as you know. So,
Right. Well, and I wanted to ask you about that too, because you're part of a chess club that meets here, I think, at the college, right?
right. Yeah.
Fairly regularly?
Yeah, we're in partnership with Encore, which has worked out nice, since a couple of us are old enough to be Encore people. But the Four Corners Chess Club, the story goes that it was founded in 1966, but none, of course, the original people have come and gone. But there's a couple of us who've been there for a couple decades.
Right.
Yeah, so that's every Tuesday here at the college at 5 o'clock, and
Okay. Every week, open to new members.
exactly. And you can be a beginner. Sometimes people come and we sort of go over like how do the pieces move, and then I would say we're beginner through intermediate. Although if somebody moves to town and they're a master, they're welcome to come and give us some lessons.
Right. Okay. Very, very good to know. But it's an encore class then. I guess you would kind of sign up for that, or
No, it's just a club.
a club. Okay.
Sort of associated with Encore, so
Thank you.
you can just come. We have extra equipment, so you don't have to bring anything.
Okay. Nice.
There is a class for kids in the summer, I think, through the kids' college. That,
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
Mr. Leupold teaches that, and he's an outstanding teacher.
Right.
So
Right. And that leads me to ask you a bit about the game of chess, because it's, of course, been around for ages, and it really has a big following, and I think folks who play it love it and just love the strategy about it, maybe the challenges of it. I mean, what draws
Right.
you to chess?
right, it's got a lot going for it. For one thing, you never arrive. I think the other extreme example is tic-tac-toe. Once you've played tic-tac-toe a few times, if you and I played tic-tac-toe 100 times, we would tie every single one because we both know how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you think you figured out chess, somebody else can see things you can't see a little deeper, see a few moves ahead. But they talk about the benefits even for young people that in chess you always have to make decisions. Well, am I gonna do this move or that move? Am I gonna play it safe or am I gonna take a risk? And that those sort of things mirror life. Life is sort of about you have to make choices and weigh the risks, and sometimes there's consequences if you made a choice. Like, oh, next time maybe I won't make that choice.
Right.
There's something elegant about it too. It's not a video game with blood everywhere. It's more abstract and more noble. And
very true. I'm sure there's a chess video game with blood everywhere, though, Dr. Harrington. I have to be realistic.
There probably
but
is
when
a
you're
version
playing
of it.
the traditional way, there is not, and so that's
Right,
good to know.
right.
But the history is really fascinating too. I mean, again, it's like I said, it's been around and been played for
Centuries,
forever.
yeah, and it changed. There's several books out there like the Chess Queen, that didn't used to be the most powerful piece, and then, sometime in the Victorian time, perhaps maybe a little before that, with the rise of female monarchs like Catherine the Great, chess started having, a queen that could do a lot of stuff, and
right.
And you can go back and look at the games that they played 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and have a little history.
Sure.
That, so.
And it's almost an all ages activity. Obviously, younger kids need to learn the rules of the game, but I imagine there's a lot of young players that really enjoy it and can maybe put some of the older players to task from time to time.
On a regular basis, yeah. When we go to tournaments in Albuquerque, typically I'll play a 9 or 10-year-old who at least half the time they'll beat me, and it's good because they're young. Their brain is still. You're
okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah. It's always exciting. If somebody beats me, then it's like I'm impressed for them. Sometimes they need to learn a little maturity. They can be hard to sit still and stuff, but it's sort of like Tiger Woods in golf. The top echelon of chess players now are the ones that learned when they were kids, and they've grown up with computers helping them. So, like the current chess champion, for example, could easily beat the chess champion from 50 years ago just because he's had decades of computer preparation.
Right. Right. Interesting. Well, I know it's a fascinating game, and I think a lot of folks sometimes after the game is over will kind of study the board and just kind of go back through the steps and maybe see kind of how that happened or this happened or this piece got lost or what have you, right?
Yeah, you learn a lot, and if you're playing online, the computer remembers the game for you, and oftentimes will go back and tell you where you went wrong. But
that's helpful.
Otherwise, if you're playing with, you can you and your opponent can go over the game, or you can go over a game with a friend and say, well, what happened here I am on move 20 and I'm in trouble. What happened? When did that happen? Look back, what did I do wrong on move 15 maybe?
Right. And you can kind of go back and see where things kind of started to go south a little bit.
Right.
Perhaps.
Right.
So very good. Well, before we go, again, Dr. Harrington, if folks would like more details to come and see you or the other doctors in your practice for sports physical or whatever the case may be as summer continues, but what's the best way to do that? Just to go online?
Well, I think, you can call our office, 505-609-6700, or you can go online. We are taking new patients up through. Now, we stop at age 18, so sometimes we don't take a new 17-year-old. For example, we'd say, well, you might want to start with a family doctor rather than start with us and then a year later have to move on. But other than that, from babies on up to mid-adolescence, we're excited about new patients.
Okay. And you have some new doctors joining you said.
Right. Dr. Lyons is her name, and we have some relatively new doctors that have been there for a couple of years. They're still building their practice, and then some more. There's a mix. The new, it's not everybody's new. There's some seasoned doctors.
That's a good way to describe
right,
them.
Right,
yes,
yes.
I like that. So very good. Well, again, congratulations on the retirement, and it's good to see you. I'm glad you keep coming back to see me. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
You bet.
It's always fun.
Good to have you here. Dr. Preston Herrington, San Juan Health Partners Pediatrics, my guest here on KSJE. KSJE and San Juan College present the Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week.
Hello, this is M&Chi bringing coaching tips over the radio for week 6. Study smarter, not harder. Occasionally, college professors will tell you the information that well beyond the exam. Listen to them. They're sharing this information with you to save you time so you're not studying the wrong information for hours. You can focus on the important parts. If you're unsure about what to focus on while studying, send your professor a quick email to confirm or speak with him or her after class. Studying can be draining, so treat yourself for a little motivation. Buy a coffee from your favorite coffee shop or get some snacks from the campus convenience store. You can also reward yourself by taking breaks for activities you enjoy, like walking, reading, or watching TV. Adding in a reward will give you something fun to reward.
The Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week, presented by KSJE and the Student Achievement Center at San Juan College. KSJE is supported by the San Juan County Historical Society, presenting the film Rambo of the Caracas Mesa, a history of Jicarilla Mustangs, with a premiere on Saturday, July 16th at 6:30 p.m. at the Farmington Civic Center, followed by a gala with the stars. Tickets are $18 and $25. Find out more at fmtn.org/shows. The San Juan County Historical Society. KSJE is proud to support the Summer Terrace Concert Series, Saturdays at the Farmington Museum. Soul Jazz from the Fets Extet, Saturday, July 16th. The Summer Terrace Concert Series at the Farmington Museum, 3041 East Main Street, Saturdays this summer from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.